Hello everybody, welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar will be an overview of lattice and implicit modeling in the NX additive manufacturing. I will be your host, Bryan Fischer. Here's a quick bio of myself. As you can see, I have 20 plus years with NX and Team Center. I was a designer for 15 plus years in the aircraft industry and 5 plus years as a designer in the medical industry. Today, we'll be looking over Lattice Designer. This is a new designer that was released just recently with the new release of NX. We will be looking at the lattice, the body lattice, tube lattice, and so on. Then we will be jumping into implicit modeling, and we'll be looking at a convergent solid with mixed geometry. We'll be taking one of my prior designs that I did on a webinar 4 months ago on topology optimization. If you have not done so yet, go ahead and go to our YouTube channel and you can do a quick search of that, and you can also additionally subscribe to it. Here, as you can see, I opened up a browser and we're inside our Prolim YouTube channel. Inside there you can easily subscribe, and we have a search bar here. For example, I'll just go ahead and I'll put in my NX topology optimization. What you will see, it will bring up videos from our past webinars. We had one webinar that was over 5 years ago on topology. Then I came in and did one 3 years ago on topology using the old frustum solver. About 4 months ago, I went in and I redid my webinar using the new Siemens solver. So you could quickly go in there, review that video, and watch how to do topology optimization. We will be utilizing this model at the end of this particular session of this webinar and showing how we can use that model later on in manufacturing. As we move along here, you will see that we now have a new NX Lattice Designer. This will take place in the 2312 that we just released in December. This has changed slightly from the old solver, and you will have to update your old lattice. I will go through that quickly and show you guys how to do that here in a few. Additionally, though, I do want to point out that all lattice cell types are still there. Those lattice cell types are still all there, along with now we can come in and actually change the factor. And as you can see here in the factor, depending on how you select, you will get a little bit better quality facets, depending on what your use is, your design intent, and such. So let's go ahead and open up the new NX 2312 here. And we're going to go ahead and look at a couple of things, and then we'll jump into some models. We'll do some examples here, and I'll then move on. At the very end, we will be taking my model from my topology optimized webinar, and we'll be making changes to that. I'll show you can do traditional modeling with convergent modeling, so you'll have mixed geometry. And then I will go ahead and I'll get an implicit modeling, and I will add some gyroids and such to my particular model. And then at the end, my co-worker Keith will be taking over, and he will be doing the next portion of our webinar, which will be within a series. So let's go ahead and look here. I am currently in NX 2312 here. If you have not done much within the Discovery Center, when you first open it up, there is some useful stuff there, such as Discovery Center here. You can get different things, such as right here. It has a little video here right away that shows NX Lattice Designer and explains a little bit about it. Additionally, you can come up to your what's new here. You can take this all the way back to NX 11, and you can go in, you can do different things such as for design, manufacturing. I'm just going to say all. I'm going to go in here and paste my lattice and go ahead and look at that. And you'll see here that we have a list of what has been added to NX for lattice. It will tell you what the particular version it was added, and then if you scroll down here, you can see that there's a pretty good list of it, of all the analysis, filter lattice. All this has been added throughout the years. The one we're going to be focused on starting off right here, though, is we're going to be looking at this one right here, Lattice Designer Enhancement. If you hover over it, it gives you a little bit of a description of what that change is. So as you can see here, some of the last commands have been combined. Let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and select that there, and that will take us into a browser, and inside that browser we can get information on that particular command. Additionally, on the left-hand side, as you can see, we can go in there and select any of these here. So if you were, for example, want to look at algorithmic features, you can go ahead in there. If you want to look what the implicit model enhancements were, we could go and select that, and it would give us an idea of what has been added. Now, if we look at my slide deck here and we get back into that, you can see within the new Lattice Designer, here's some of the enhancements we have. These capabilities are now offered as an add-on, and along with being also in the token, if you guys have ever used the tokens, or if you're set up like that, what the tokens do, you can purchase so many tokens a year. You can check in and check out those tokens and get different features, a lot of different applications within there. So the other things we added to this, it has now improved quality, smoothness, and generation performance, so things generate a lot faster than they have in the past. Along with the data now is compatible with downstream model and CAE workflows. You will have to renew the command on the legacy lattice structures, and I'll be showing you that here in a few seconds. Now this works very similar to how the new Sketcher works, if you guys have worked out the new Sketcher. However, you can turn it on and off just like you can the Sketcher. All right, let's jump back into NX here. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a file here. And this particular file is going to be lattice that was done back in the 2306. So the version before the version we're currently in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to update that particular lattice. So over here you can see in our part navigator we have our lattice. If I go to select that lattice right away, you're going to get this little warning here telling you editing a NX lattice base feature is not supported with the new NX Lattice Designer license. You must renew feature before editing. So let's go ahead and renew that feature. And then we'll take a look and I'll show you how some of these new lattice tools work. So we'll go in and we'll say renew up here. I just did a search up here in the right hand corner and you see we got this renew feature. If you never renewed a feature before, this will come in and give you a list of what features you have and what version they were created in. In this case, we can see our lattice here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, update this. Right here, it's going to tell me renewing this will recompute some stuff. So my suggestion is anytime you're doing something as this, you may want to just rev it up or give yourself a save as and work out of that and make sure everything looks correctly for you. I'm going to go ahead and say okay in this one. Right there, you can see it tells me the renew feature. Lattice 9 was a type surface. It's been converted to triangular now with an output surface. So as it says here, conversion will cause remeshing the graph structure. I'm going to say yes on this. And we're going to let it go through, and it's going to go and remesh all this and put all this information into the new Lattice Structure Designer, not Lattice Base anymore. And once again, this particular application now, the commands on the lattice can now be an add-on. So you can go ahead and have that as an add-on. You don't have to have all the additive stuff. If you're just working with the lattice, you can go ahead and get that add-on. So once I have that done, now I have the ability to come in here, and once I click on this, I can go in there and change this to any other thing I want. So that's how you would go in to do the new Lattice Designer structure. If you want to use the old one, you still have that ability. You can simply come in, go into Utilities, Early Access feature. If you go in here and type up Lattice, you'll see right here it tells me use new Lattice Designer product. So much like the new Sketcher, if you worked with the new Sketcher, you can turn it off and on. Once you turn it on though, and you create anything, remember you are now in that new lattice structure. If you turn it off, you're going to be in the old Lattice Base Designer. Now, much like a lot of the customer defaults, however, if you turn this off and on, you will have to hit OK, close out of NX, and come back in for it to take place. So that's our new NX Lattice Designer. So as I show here within my slide deck, it gives you information here, and you can see this was the one file that I particularly just did, and it just gives you a little bit of the information of what the new Lattice Designer is. Next, we'll be going in and we will be utilizing these tools on a new model, well, on a model I already have, but we're going to go in and we're going to do some surface, triangle, we're going to do body lattice and such. Now as we look at this, you can see here I did put a comparison side by side in my slide deck. We have the old lattice base versus the lattice designer. You can see here it just gives you a comparison of the different ones we had. And however, as I pointed out before, our cell types are all the same that we've had in the past, but you can create new cell types, and we will do that a little bit here in a few minutes. However, I did want to point out here, you can see I did hover over these, and you can see the stiffness and everything are the same. So the first lattice we're going to look at, though, we're going to look at the triangular, and we'll be using doing a face on this one. So I'll be having this model. I'll bring this model up. I'll show you the particular model I have, and then we'll go in and do one of these particular lattices. So here we are back in our NX here. You can see I've already created some lattice here on this particular body. I'm going to go ahead and hide this lattice, and we're going to recreate it real quick. So under Design for Additive Manufacturing, we have our Lattice tab. I'm going to go ahead and reset my dialog here. And you can see we have a few here, unit fill, triangular, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and go to the triangular. From here, I can come in there and select faces. I have my rules over here, tangent face, single face, and so on. Let's go ahead and just select some faces here, and you can see we quickly are able to create our lattice. Right now, we're using the existing mesh. However, you can remesh it, and you'll see as soon as we remesh it, we get a little bit different here. I have different options in here. I can go variable. I can give it a different size here. So if I put a 1 inch and we go in and select that, 1 millimeter, sorry, not inch, because we're in metric. Additionally, we have things such as surface, rod diameter, average size. You notice it's intelligent here, and it tells me the rod diameter is too large in relation to the unit cell. So let's take that back to 5 millimeters. And let's go ahead and make the lattice a little bit smaller. We'll do a 0.5 on the lattice on the rod diameter. Now you can see we get a difference in the rod diameter there. We can do balls and blends. We'll get in that a little bit later. Here's the factor I talked about earlier. The greater you make this number, the more accurate it be. So to be a little bit smoother part, I'm going to go ahead and say OK on this. And now we have ourselves a triangular lattice. Okay, so let's go back into my slide deck here, and we're going to look at a few other of the lattices that we can create. If I come over here, and what you'll notice is when we get into different lattices, we have different options. So think of this almost like the hole command. You depending on what hole you select, type of hole you select, depends on what options you will be getting. We'll be going in here and creating this unit fill. We'll talk a little bit about removing dangling rods and such as that. So let's go ahead and jump back in NX, and we'll take a look at that. So jumping back in NX again, we're going to go into our Design for Additive Manufacturing tab. We're going to select Lattice. And this time we're going to go with the unit fill. So notice in the unit fill, we do have some rules here. We have a single body, featured body, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and select my body here. And right away, you'll notice that we have a lattice that is added to it. We have a uniform cube we can do. We have all these different types of lattice we could put in there, such as star, triangular, and stuff. I'm just going to go with the triangular, the bitriangular. From here, I have another section that says specify orientation. This allows me to specify the orientation of how I want my lattice to be. So I can rotate it if I want, and you'll see as I rotate it, we get a different lattice there in that it angles in that direction. I can randomize my nodes also. Additionally, if I turn off the preview here and I go and move this, we're able to see the lattice here. That's going to be the unit itself. If I change any of these numbers, let's go ahead and change this to 8. You'll see that that size changes. Rod diameter, we can change that rod diameter. Let's go a little bit thicker here. 2. Maybe we don't want that, so let's go ahead and put that back to maybe 0.75 or something in that manner. And we'll look at the balls and the blends here in a few minutes, but if I turn my preview back on, you'll notice that it shows the preview of how it's going to be in the body. So from here, let's go ahead and accept this. And we're going to have ourselves a unit field. Now, you'll notice that a lot of these rods are sticking through and stuff, but that's okay. We can come in over here, look at our lattice, go back over here, and we have different options here. So if I zoom in a little bit, you'll notice that we have balls, absolute size, relative to size. So you notice we got a factor here, 2:1. If I change it back to this here, you're going to have the ball diameter of whatever size you want here. You got blends. You got an organic blend. If I do the organic blend, it's not going to be as smooth. What you'll notice if I go ahead and do my organic blend here, and I go ahead and say show results, and give this a few seconds here, you'll notice that the blend of the particular rods themselves are not real smooth. They're going to be more organic. Now, you may want that for something such as in the medical industry. So that all depends on what your particular design intent is, what machines you have, what material you're using. So there's a lot of factors that come into this play when you're deciding what lattice you use. Maybe you're using it for cushion. Maybe you're just using a lattice for lightweight. Or maybe you're just even using it just for looks. So you have many different factors that come into play when you're selecting these lattices. So when I'm going through these models, you may look at these models and go, why is he using that type of lattice? My whole point in this particular demonstration is to show you guys how to use the tools, not what to do with the tools. So think of it this way. I'm teaching you how to use the hammer to the nail. I'm not teaching you how to go in there and actually create the barn. Okay, so here we are with our finish. As you can see here, as I talked about, when you go ahead and use the organic versus let's see what the other option was. I apologize here. The none for the blend, you're going to get a different look. You get a totally different look. It all depends on what your design intent is and what the particular model is going to be used for. We have another option down here called remove dangling rods at selected face. So this here can be done within this particular dialog box, or later on we can come in here and do some clip lattice, and we could also do a connect lattice. We're going to do that here in a little bit, but just realize that you can do it inside the dialog box on a lot of these. But the difference is if I do it in the dialog box, it's not going to show up in the modeling tree versus doing it outside the dialog box. It's put into the modeling tree. So it's all depends on how you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead though myself and say remove dangling rods. Notice it says select face. I can select any face I want here. And as we go in here, it's going to remove those dangling rods. If we say remove disconnected portions, this would help you clean up some of it also. So if we come in here and we say this, and we select another face, we're going to come in here and remove any dangling particular lattice at that time. I'm going to go ahead and say okay on this just so we can get a result here and so we can see what our particular results are when we finish. I do want to point out, as you may have noticed, it does take a little bit longer to produce the lattice, not compared to old versions, but what I mean by that is you get a preview pretty quickly, but to actually compute and put this particular the lattice on the model, you do have to wait a little bit, but it is improved a lot over the versions. So we'll wait a little bit longer here, and then we'll move on to the next lattice. Okay, so it's gone in here and finished now. I'm going to go ahead and hide this body. And when we hide the body, you're going to see the results we get. And you can see the results we get for this particular one. Now you do have options later on, and we'll look at some of these options such as filter lattice, clip lattice, rod thickness, and things like that. As I stated, many of those options are also included within the dialog box, but that does all depend on which particular lattice you choose also. All right, back on my slide deck here, and you can see we're going to look at body lattice next. you'll see here I have a particular body that I'm going to take and actually bring it in, and we're going to have a cylinder, and you see the results we have here. Let's jump back in NX and take a real quick look at that. All right, so as you can see here, here's the body that I brought in. We're going to take this particular body. I'm going to turn my cylinder on, and let me do a fit here real quick. And I've already produced this lattice. If I turn on that lattice, you'll see the lattice right there, what we have. You can see the views that we have here. Let me actually turn off the cylinder so you can get a better look here. You can see the lattice that we created. I'm going to go ahead and create that again real quick. Let's turn the body lattice off here, turn this on. Come over our design for additive manufacturing, and right here is body lattice. This one's pretty quickly to go in and do, but you do have the option of unit fill or unit surface. Let's go ahead and do a unit fill. We select our bounding body first, and then we're going to select our cell. So here's our body we want to select, and the cell we want to select is going to be the body here. Notice I can select over on the parts list also. Here I have how large do I want each one of these to be, and then we have our tolerance set. And also I'm going to go ahead and say okay to this, and we'll wait a few seconds here and we should have our results. So here's our results. I'm going to go ahead and turn the cylinder off again and take a look what we got here. And let's turn the other lattice on that I had also. So you can see here we lay right on top of each other. So that's a quick way that you can get some lattice that's not tube lattice. It's actually a body lattice. So you can go in there and pick any type of body and create yourself some body lattice. Another option we have here is tube lattice, and this tube lattice allows us to go in there and create our own lattice. As you can see here in this particular one, I used some curves and including a spline, and we can quickly get ourselves tube lattice. So we would have this that we could use later on for another design. All right, we're back in NX here, and I brought up my file that I have for the tube lattice. You can see here I used some curves, regular lines, and a spline, and then I mirrored a curve over just so I could have the same spline over here. Let's go ahead and turn this tube lattice off and go ahead and create it again real quick. So within the design for additive manufacturing, we have tube lattice right here. Right here we have select curve, and we have the different sizes that we can come in there and put. We also have this end caps. We can have flat or round. And then the settings, this could be how smooth do you want your lattice to be. I'm going to use standard here, and then we simply go in and we just select our curves. As we select the curves, you'll see a quick display of what we're going to get. You can see right now, currently I have a round edge, end caps I mean, but I can go flat or I can go none. So you have options there. I'm going to go ahead and take this part and say okay to it, and then we're going to have ourselves some tube lattice. So that tube lattice, as you can see, it went in there and it created it pretty quickly, and we can take this cell and use it later on. So if you want to go in, you have the ability to create your own cells. You don't have to use the ones that are there, but you have the ability to come in there and create these. Now the next one we would look at operates in a very similar manner to what we just did with the tube lattice. The difference with this is we can come and save this one out, and when we go into our normal lattice dialog box, there's an area for cell type, and you see right here on the cell type, we can quickly go in there and take that down and put it from file. When we put it from file, we can go ahead and use like any lattice that we have created. So this is a unit cell editor. Like I said, it works very similar to the tube lattice. It just gives you the option to save this out of the file, and other people could come in there and grab it. Okay, let's jump back into NX real quick again, and we're going to look at this particular unit cell editor. So I have myself a block here. I have some planes that are for intersection and such. And you'll see up here under our Design for Additive Manufacturing tab, we have Unit Cell Editor. So from the Unit Cell Editor, I can use existing curve or points. So if I do existing curves, that includes edges. If I come in here and continue, you see we get a quick display of what our cell is going to look like. And I'll just quickly go in and create this, and we'll get a block here. And you see here we have different rod diameters we can show. Additionally, we can come in here and say add new set. If we add a new set, I can say by points, and I can do stuff such as this, where I'm just going to come in and select it across the corners here. So we have our cell that we're quickly going in and creating. If I zoom out a little bit and I say show pattern, it's going to show us what that lattice would look like in a pattern. If I turn that off, we get our individual part again. I can change the rod diameter just like I did in any other lattice. So I could take this down to 5 if I want it. I could take it up to 15 if I want it. And then down here, we have additional things such as grid lines, load as an existing unit cell, save the unit cell, save the unit cell at a specific location. Let's go ahead and just say save to, let's just go ahead and save the unit cell. As soon as we hit save the unit cell, we're going to have this here. I'm going to go ahead and say cell 2 and say apply to this and then go ahead and close this. Now, if I come in now, we'll look at my part navigator here. You see that there is nothing in there for unit cell. However, if I have my lattice here and I come in here and say from file, we can go and select that particular file. Where's cell 2 or whichever one we choose. And then it's going to act and operate in a very similar manner that the normal lattice would act. So you can come in there and create your own cells, and it allows you to go in and utilize that throughout your company. You can say it saves it out as an XML file, and you can go and save that anywhere for anybody within your group, company, and such to go in there and grab it to use it for lattice. So that's a pretty nice little tool that we've added that allows you to go in and utilize that. And as you see, this does give you a little bit more option than just the tube lattice, because you can use it in the unit fill lattice here and such, and then you have all these options that go along with it. The next area we are going to get into is the lattice tools. And what I mean by these tools, I mean connect lattice, filter lattice, rod thickness, and clip lattice. As I stated before, a lot of this can be done within the dialog box of lattice itself. However, if you utilize this, it will add it to your part tree, and you can come back and quickly select any of these. So the next portion, we'll be going through all these particular tools. We'll be looking at these and doing demonstrations on them. The first we'll look at is the connect lattice. Connect lattice allows us to go in there and connect different lattices to each other. Let's go ahead and look at connect lattice here. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up my NX here. And I'm going to offset a surface. I'm just going to do one surface, and we're going to create new lattice here. So here I have an offset of 5 millimeters. Designed for additive. Just go ahead and create some lattice real quick. And let's go ahead and hide these faces. And I'll set here, turn that off. And now we have ourselves some lattice that we need to connect. So we have some options here. I'm going to come in over here on my lattice. We have connect lattice. I select my first body. And then I'm going to come over and select my second body of my lattice. And you'll get a quick preview of what lattice it's going to create that connects these. Inside here I have different things such as max distance. If I took this down to, let's say, 4, it's going to come back and give me an error because they're 5 millimeters apart from each other. So you have a check there that you can put into here. I'm going to go ahead and put this back to 5. And you'll see as I do this, it realizes the distance here, and I'm allowed to go in there and actually create my lattice. I have fixed rod size or variable. I have rod diameter. The balls, I can keep them and such. So you can see many of these options are the same options we had within the lattice dialog. I'm going to go ahead and say and apply this, And now you see our new lattice there, and we have one body now versus having two different lattices. So let's go ahead and jump back into the slide deck here, and we're going to look at a few other areas here, and then we'll go and demonstrate them on a model. So the first one we have already done, which is connect lattice. The next tool we have is filter lattice. This allows us to go in here and filter a lattice. You can filter it by an angle or filter by length. And then we have rod thickness. This allows me to go in there and look at lattice with a thicker rod or a thinner rod, and it would take my original lattice and just create a copy of it with the different rod diameter. And the last one we'll look at is clip lattice. This clip lattice allows me to go in there and clip it from either a body or a face. So let's jump back in NX here, and we'll take a quick look at some of them. So we have filter lattice here. Filter lattice allows me to come in, as I stated, and filter my lattice. I can do it by filter angle, or I can do the filter by length. If I come in here and turn on my preview, we're going to get a little error that lets us know that these are disconnected lattice if I look at this. But I want to go ahead and OK this and just show you what the results would be. So if you have a requirement of maybe your printer is not able to go in and, create at certain angles, or you may have to actually have supports, this allows you to go in there and quickly identify what those particular lattice structure is that may have those issues. All right, so I undid that, and let's go ahead and look at another one here, rod thickness. So the rod thickness, I come in, I select my lattice. Right here you see our rod diameter. Let's go ahead and change that rod diameter, and let's do a preview. You see we have a thicker lattice here now. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Let's go look at our part navigator here and see what we have now. So now you have the original lattice, which I have turned off, and then you have your rod thickness. So you can come back and quickly look at the differences in those, and you can see that that rod thickness, I do have the ability to come back and make changes to it. So if I want to make a change to my lattice and look at it in different ways, I can quickly go in there and do that. As I stated, you can do that within the lattice dialog itself. However, this puts it on the parts tree, and you can quickly go in there and select it by itself to make those changes. Now the next thing we're going to look at here is the clip lattice. I'm going to go ahead and put an offset surface back on, turn it back on. And let's go ahead and actually change that offset and reverse it so we bring it in instead of out there. And now you see we have ourselves a face that I'm going to use to do my clip lattice. I'm going to come over here, select clip lattice, reset my dialog. You have graph and body, graph only, or body only. I'm going to select my lattice. I'm going to do this with a face, select my face, and let's go show results. Notice if I have my vector the one direction, we have that. And if I reverse my vector, then we would clip in this manner. So this is a quick way, if you have a certain face that you want to clip it at, you can come in there and clip your lattice back to that particular face. So this is the end of that particular area on the lattice. Next, I'm going to be jumping in implicit modeling. And the implicit modeling, I'm going to take my original design that I had on my webinar from 4 months ago, and we're going to make it a convergent design with mixed geometry. So in this case, what you see here was the original design. It was a machined bracket. We came down and we optimized our design. And now what I'm going to do is, we were told that we want to make it symmetric versus not being symmetrical like it was in the past. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some gyroid in the middle here just to show how we can use mixed geometry. So here's my original body from the webinar that we held 4 months ago. And within there you can see on top, this is the original machine body. And then here's our optimized body that we came up with. Now, I went in and I used some design group in here. If you're not familiar with design groups, design group allows me to go in and create multiple versions of a model within itself. So think of it almost like wave geometry within itself. So if you're not familiar with the design group, there is an activity within the support center actually that will allow you to download a part and go through and actually create a design group, and shows you the uses of the design group. So for this particular one though, what I did is I used the design group to create another iteration of this model, and what you'll see is I came in and I created this by using some basic modeling tools. So let's go ahead and just walk through those real quick since I've already created it. What I'll do is I'll come over here and make this my current. So you can see I started off with the original topology optimized body. As I stated before, we decided we wanted to make this symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I created a sketch and an extrusion just to split that body. So the nice thing about the newer versions of NX, I can create multiple bodies now by splitting and not get the Boolean error like we used to in the past. So from here I come in, I use what we call delete body. This allows me to delete that one side. I then came in and extruded that centerpiece. The reason I extruded the centerpiece, that's where I'm going to make my gyroid. So within here, in my implicit modeling, I'm going to go ahead and hide that extrusion. So you can see here we have our gyroid that I use. Now, how did I get to that? I'll go ahead and inside more here, we have implicit modeling. So if I came back and made this my current feature, and let's go ahead and suppress this. Well, let me do that again. Sorry, wrong order there. Let me go ahead and suppress this one. And let's recreate this gyroid real quick. So here I am in my extrude. I come over to implicit modeling. And when I'm in implicit modeling, I have my choices of different ones that I can use here. So I have gyroid, Schwartz, diamond, and so on. And I can come in and use any of these to create my particular gyroid, diamond, and so on. So if you're not familiar with TPMS, there are several that we provide within NX. As you can see, we got gyroid, Schwartz, diamond. So this is a basic shape that you'll get out of these. We also have where we can create our own particular TPMS by using a general equation. So we'll go over that here in a few, but I just wanted to point this out. If you're not familiar with a TPMS, this is the different options we have within NX. So let's go ahead though and recreate that particular gyroid that I had. So right here I have my gyroid. I come in here and I select my body. I have solid volume. Let's go ahead and wait a few moments here, and it's going to go ahead and create it for us. We see our preview there. We have void volume and unite and such. We have uniform. I can change the K factor. I can change the thickness. So you have a few different things here. You can come in there and go and create it. We'll apply this, and we'll have ourselves another gyroid here that we're able to go in and we can make changes to. So here we have that. And as you see, you won't see it until you hit the implicit model, and then it will give you a plus sign and let you know what geometry you have within there. So I'm going to go ahead though in this case, and I'm going to hide this one, and I want to make this one my current feature. So first I got to finish it though up here on the left. It's very much like a sketch type thing. You have to come in here and finish it. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to unsuppress this and walk through the steps that I did do to create that body. So it's going to recreate that gyroid here right now because I'm unsuppressing it. So it's going to calculate everything and go through that. Once I do that, then I'm going to come in and I trim my body so that I have my face down there where I want my face to be at. Okay, so we have our gyroid created now. I'm going to move on to the next step here, which is what I did is I came in and I actually trimmed my body. So you'll see here, it's going to come back and actually trim that body back to where I want it to be. And let's go ahead and hide this extrude so you can see. So I took the gyroid that we created by using that extrusion and the implicit model, and we trimmed it back. And then I came in and you'll see I went over and I mirrored my geometry. So the next step I had was unite. So we're going to come in and unite my part. As you notice, these are just basic modeling commands, but I'm using it on a convergent modeling, which is a facet body. That's a mesh body. So it's a mixed body now. If I hover over these, once I have everything united, and I'll move on to the very last portion of this where I unite everything together. And now if I hover over these parts, let's go ahead and say solid body, you'll see it says convergent solid body with mixed geometry or extracted geometry. So that was a quick way that I came in and used implicit modeling along with some TPMS to create myself a design of mixed geometry from my topology-optimized model. Now the last portion of this, what we did is going to be on the general equation. So within the general equation here, you can create multiple different implicit shapes depending on what your equation is. So I'm not going to create one, but what I'm going to do is just show you two examples that I created. You can see here the mathematical equation I put in here on both of these, and we were able to create ourselves a gyroid shape. Or not gyroid shape, but TPMS, I'm sorry. So that concludes this portion of the demonstration in the webinar. Keith's going to give you a quick update of what's coming up next in his portion of the series on the on additive manufacturing. So just to go over the steps that we did and the things that we looked at real quick, we went and looked at the new lattice designer. We spoke about how you would have to update if you're using an older version of NX on the lattice designer and showed you how to do that. Then we went through steps of the different lattices that we're able to use, including body lattice, tube lattice. We went in and showed you unit cell editor, and then we went in and used some lattice tools such as filter lattice, connect lattice, clip lattice, and rod thickness. The last portion of this webinar, I went in and I showed you implicit modeling tools, and I showed you how we could take a topology-optimized body and create that into a convergent solid with mixed geometry along with some TPMS. So I'll let Keith go ahead and give his portion of what's coming up on the next portion of the series, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions. Thank you guys for attending.